We are so glad you are here to the podcast. You guys, I don't interview people that often because I often am ranting myself, but I was told that I had to have this guy on the podcast. And I said yes, because that's what I say. And then when I ordered one book and then another book, I'm like, oh, yes, this was a good decision. Welcome, Tanner Olson.
I have been given a lot of introductions before. I think I need you to do all of my introductions. That was so great.
Well, I believe it so much. It was a casual friend mentioned, "Hey, have you seen this book?" And actually, I had because Jonathan Merritt had posted this book. I'm going to show it.
Mhm.
So I
Yep.
babysat Jonathan Merritt. There's a fun fact. The Merritt
Fun.
boys, they were wild. Let me tell you, those three boys were crazy when in Laurel, Mississippi, back in the day. Their dad was a pastor and I was their babysitter. So he posted it. And then Matthew Turner posted it. And I love Matthew's books for young children. And then I ordered it. Tanner, I might have shed a tear reading
Yeah.
this book. Now, I want to retitle the book, you guys. I want to change the name. I'm not even going to tell you what I want to change it to. I'm not. It's all the things I say to God. We're going to talk about this sweet little treasure today. Tanner, I liked it so much that recently I wrote a faith guide to go with my curriculum, A Year of Playing Skillfully. And I was looking for quality books to put in this faith guide. It was one of the first ones. The minute I saw it, read it, I put it in there. So it is
Thank
now
you.
listed as one of the recommended books because it's delightful. What sparked you this idea? What started it?
Yeah, so my background is I'm a poet. I'm just a guy who wanted to be a writer, became a writer after college, started writing poetry, started performing spoken word poetry around the country. And then about 10 years into my career, I decided to write a children's book. And the way that we got to that point was my wife and I, we were diagnosed with unexplained infertility. So we really wanted
Mm.
to be parents. And so we tried for years to become parents. And then the doctor informed us, hey, it's unexplained infertility. And you don't really know what to do with that when grief sneaks up on you or when your
Mm.
story gets changed in a way when you did not expect it.
When it
So we
gets
spent a lot of
messy.
messy and then it's not just like it life doesn't just feel messy. Inside of you feels everything just gets disrupted. And
Mm.
our prayers all for a while were why and how and this isn't what we thought life was going to be. And I know so many people have gone through similar situations where grief just sneaks up on you, whether it's like the loss of a loved one or a dream or what you thought life was going to be. And so we spent a lot of time asking God how and why, and eventually began to pray, okay, what's next? What is next?
Mm.
And we were led to adoption and began filling out paperwork and taking all the steps and saving the money and doing all the things. And so while we were grieving, while I was wrestling with what's the next thing, all of our friends were having kids at that time. It was just like
Yeah.
every time I got onto the internet, it was like, and we're having another child. And it's like, I didn't think it was ever going to
Yes.
happen to us. I'm like, well, you watch people receive the answer to your prayers and you're happy for them and you're also just devastated because you're a human being with real emotions and that's how he felt. So I took my grief to my desk and I started to write because I wanted to write a book for my friends kids, for the kids that were calling me Mr. Tanner and Uncle Tanner. And I thought, what do I want to teach them? And it was the thing that I was learning again in this season of grief, that I could talk to God anytime, anywhere about anything. And that
Mm.
your prayers did not have to be perfect. They didn't have to be poetic. They could be questions. It could be silence. So I honestly and you hear a lot of writers say this, I write what I needed to hear. And what I needed to hear came out in a children's book. And really loved writing it. It was so different than writing a poem or an essay or a joke. But writing this book has taught me more about who God is and what it means now for me to be a dad.
I love that. Well, that was going to be my next question is, why did you think this message was important to teach young children? And I love that you said it's a lesson that you need to be reminded of, but also, I mean, this is something we're going to read to our youngest kids. So why
Mhm.
do you think that learning that we can pray about anything, anywhere, anytime, why do you think that is one of the facts or the concepts we need to teach to our youngest kids?
Well, number one, it's true. So I think we should teach our kids true things. And
Hey,
not
good
only is it
point.
true, I'm a new dad, but I'm still learning things. But I mean,
I see.
it is true. It's helpful. It's comforting. And it's also something that they're going to be doing for the rest of their lives, hopefully, prayerfully.
Yes.
Our son is 19 months old at the time that we're recording this, and we have gotten to teach him how to roll over and crawl and walk and use a spoon and do all of these things. And we're also teaching him, how to say please and thank you, how to ask for help. and how to pray. And so it's like that
Mm,
those are the things that he's going to be doing for the rest of his life. And so why not show him from a very young age that praying isn't just a good idea, it's something that we do. It's not just something that we do before meals or before bed. It's something that we can do anytime, anywhere, and it matters and it changes us.
yeah, I love that, and I love that you took Abby, this sweet little girl who is praying with her family. You started out where she's already praying. I mean, her family's praying about things,
Yeah.
but then it moves to this huge question: Can I do this by myself? And I honestly think even some adults still ask that question: Can I really do this myself? Do I really have this direct line between me and God? Why did you kind of hone in on that?
Because I have a lot of friends and who have a lot of questions. And I think we
Mm.
also live in this interesting time where we just pass people off to experts or we look for the
Mm,
answer outside of ourselves when actually we're very much equipped. I've heard a lot of people talk about when talking about prayer, because I asked questions before I wrote the book or while I was writing it of like,
yeah.
would this be helpful? And a lot of times I heard from people like, well, if I want to teach my kids how to pray, like, that's kind of what the pastor's for, or that's what the youth leader is for, or
Mm,
I'm not the right person to do that. And I was like, well, actually, you're more than qualified
absolutely.
to teach someone how to pray and to pray by yourself. I think somewhere along the lines we got it into our heads that like we can't do the things that God has created us to do. And I think that we can just talk to him. We can just sit down and have a conversation with him. The number of messages I've received since this book has been out, and it's been out for a little over a month or so, but a lot of parents are like, I don't think you know how much I needed this book. Like my kid
Mm.
likes it, but like something in me needed to hear what was inside of this book.
That makes a really good children's book, let's be honest. I mean, if you can really touch 2 generations at the same time, Tanner, that's special.
I think it's thank you. And I think it's just like sharing something true and sharing something that now prayer is very complex when you really think about it. And yet it's so complex that it might also be simple. And I really think that it
Mm,
is. If we take God at his word and says, come to me, well,
mm.
let's try that. Let's do that. And you can start that when you're 3 years old or when you're 33 years old, when you're 65. Like it does and the conversation doesn't have to be perfect. And I think we live in have you ever been like praying with people and afterwards someone like you said a prayer and someone's like, that's a really good prayer. And I'm like,
Actually,
well,
yes.
there's not like a bad prayer, you know? So like
Right.
we don't have to, God is not grading us. Sure, there are some prayers that might sound better, but it doesn't have to sound better to be heard. It is heard because you are his child. So say whatever you
Mm.
want to say. Go ahead, get it wrong, like use the wrong kind of words. He's listening.
I love that, and here's a couple reasons I love. Number one, my first crush. You probably don't know me very well, Tanner, but my first crush was Mr. Rogers, and why it was Mr. Rogers was because he gave us permission to feel and to
Yeah.
question and to talk about everything. And not trying to compare God to Mr. Rogers, but what I am saying is,
Well,
I know, but what I love about this book and the way that you present it is talking to God is very similar to that. Like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you can ask questions and you can talk about anything and all your feelings. And I think for a young child to give them permission from the get go to
yeah.
say, hey, these are big feelings you're feeling, and there's a big God who can hear it all, whether it's
Mhm.
good or sad or grief or whatever it is, it's all okay. And I think if we can set the stage early for a young child, then we've given them a powerful tool. And I think that's what your book does.
Yeah, and I hope that it shows that prayer is it's gentle, it's
Mm,
inviting. You can be vulnerable. Well, first of all, I also have a crush on your first crush as well. The man was brilliant in like he knew Jesus.
yeah,
And
he
the way
did.
that he knew Jesus was evident and obvious in the way that he sat down and talked, not even with children, but with like people in general. If you watch, you watch the interviews
Yes.
and you're just like, he was this calming presence reminding us that everything is going to be okay. It may not feel okay. It may not, but one day everything is going to be okay. So what do you want to talk about? How does this make you feel? And I wanted to write a book that wasn't just like, oh, that was nice. Let's move on to the next book. I wanted it to be one of those things where a little girl, a little boy would ask their mom a question or that their parents felt like I feel like the way I wrote this book sets parents up or whoever's reading it with the child to ask them a question.
Mm,
What do you want to ask God? What do you want to thank God for today? Just these small little things to
yes.
get them thinking, to lead them into this deeper relationship where they know that they are known, where they know that they are seen, where they know that they are safe. And I think that's the thing. That's why I'm doing this.
Absolutely. And the curiosity. I also love that you do spark curiosity with these children and then you give them permission to be curious about God because it is something to be curious about, right? I mean, it's a
Yeah,
little different when we're
yeah,
presenting this big abstract concept to young children who learn concretely.
right.
So, to me it feels as if you've taken this abstract concept and you've brought it into the concrete world, which is what as a child development specialist I beg parents to do on the daily. So, I feel you accomplished that here and it was lovely. Yes, exactly. Good for you. Yeah. What do we do about the parents? Now, you're going to have parents listening to this, and there are some going, hey, that sounds great. I can read the book. That I can do. But when it comes to actually leading my child through prayer, guiding my child, that's intimidating. Like you said, there's others parents going, hey, that's a pastor's job. I don't really know how to lead my kid in prayer. What is your piece of advice for them? Maybe something you've discovered with your own son, or maybe something you've discovered while writing this book.
I would say, and legally I have to say this because I wrote the book. Number one, you should buy
Okay.
it. So when
Of
you buy the
course.
book, but when you sit through and you read through it, don't just try to get through the book. Just go through it slowly. Learn from Abby. She's going to teach you how to pray. She's going to show you that it
Mm,
doesn't have to be this or that. It can just be. And at first, I think it's totally normal to feel that way as a parent, and I think that that is not a bad feeling or a bad hesitation. I think it is a good one because that means that you are taking this seriously and that you really want what's
mm,
best for your child. That's a
yeah.
that's a good thing. But then I think it is important to hear and to remember that you're this parent's child or you love this child. You can do this. You can do this together. I would say get comfortable with the silence. It might be awkward. It's not awkward. It's just part of a conversation. And so as you go, just let's see what we talk about. And then when it's time to be done, you can say amen. Again, you're not being graded. You are leading your child in the beautiful direction that is toward God. So just say what it is. Here's the thing, you can't pray wrong. Just give what you have. Just give what
Right.
you have. And you're
Yeah.
already doing it by creating that space. And I think that might be the big thing is mom and dad,
Mhm.
you are creating a space for your children to talk with the God of the universe. And you get to be there with them.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. I know you talked about your own grief and the grief journey and how that led. I don't know if you know that I lost a son a few years ago. I had a son pass away, and so
Right.
the grief of much like you wanted children for many years before my family started going through adoption, and those feelings are so real for parents. So praying after reading this book, how do you anticipate it's gonna change their life? Not just our children, but you already said this mom said she needed this book too. Did you think about that it too would change the adults' lives when you wrote this book?
I think I thought so I wrote the book before I was a parent. And so I really wrote this from like an uncle's perspective or as somebody who really wanted to become a dad. So I thought a lot about the parents along the way and I thought a lot about what do I need to hear and
Mhm.
maybe more specifically, what did I need to hear when I was 3, 4, 5? What are the things
Mm.
that I did hear when I was 3, 4, and 5? Like when I was younger, and I really put that all into the book. Writing a children's book is harder than people think, or it's harder than I thought it was going to be because you can only
Mhm.
say so much. I wanted to
Right.
walk through all these different emotions, and I wanted to talk about how Abby had a really terrible day at school and she came home feeling sad. And I want to talk about when Abby was frustrated or when Abby was having the best day ever. I wanted to talk about all of these
Mm.
things. So now when I go back and read the book, I'm like, oh, it would have been really great if I put this there or put this there. And you can't go back and you can't
Yeah,
do that. But that's kind of the role of the parent is that when they talk
yeah.
about, Abby thanked God for things and she was happy. What do you think she might say when she's feeling sad? Or what happens when she asks God for something and he answers in a different way or he doesn't answer yet? And I think that was kind of the big, as I was writing this book, and we were praying. And it took a while for God's answer to be known. And now we're in a space
Mm.
where we look back and we can say, that was really hard. I wouldn't change it. While we were walking through it, all I wanted was for it to be changed the way that I wanted it to be changed.
Yeah,
It's so hard
totally
to
get
talk
that.
about these it's so hard to talk about these things because when you do lose a dream or when you lose a loved one, like saying, "Oh, it's going to be okay," or you'll get to a place where you look back and you'll see what God was doing all along. It's very difficult to say that. And
Yeah.
yet, we have this everlasting hope that one day everything will be okay, that the story ends with being okay. But right now,
Sure.
it's okay to say it's not. It's not okay. So what do we do when it's not okay? Well, let's open all the things I say to God.
I love that. Tell me about the silence. I love that you included that. You even talked about just being quiet. And as a girl who struggles to be still, often I've been given the Bible verse on the cup, be still and know that I'm God. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Why did you think that was important to include the silence?
Well, I think silence is prayer.
Mm.
I do a lot of, like, of writing, and I had been writing I was doing this writing where I was talking about driving in the car with my dad, and my dad is a very quiet man. He and I are very different people. He'll say, for every one word he says, I have lapped him and spoken 19 paragraphs. But I know here's what I know about my dad. I know my dad loves me. I know my dad is a quiet man, and I know that it is sometimes hard for him to verbalize what he thinks and what he feels. And yet, when I
Mhm.
ride in the car with him and it's just silence, I know that that time is precious. I know that that
Mm.
time that there is love between the two of us. I know that I am seen and I know that I am safe. And when it comes to the heaviness of this life and when it comes to talking with God, sometimes there are no words because you don't have them. Maybe that's because of the sadness or the grief or just overwhelmed. Or maybe that's because I've had moments where I didn't know what to say to God because I was just happy.
Mm.
And yet I remember I am with you always, even in
Mm.
this. So I'm just going to sit in the silence and remember what is true. That God is with
That's
me,
beautiful.
that God is for
Yeah.
me. And also, like, I mean, yes, you should speak when you pray, but, like, you don't have to. There are days and
Yeah.
there are seasons, and there was, and I'm sure you went through the season as well where you did not have the words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet that
Um,
is a beautiful prayer.
It is. And I'm thankful for a God who allows us to sit in that silence again and that anger and that sadness and that joy, as you mentioned. And I think that's another great thing that you did here is that you talk about all of the different ways. You can ask the questions, you can say the thank yous, you can say the nothings. It all is okay. And again, for a child and making it concrete, I just am going to focus on that again from this child development perspective. You did such a good job at making it concrete and making it approachable for not only the children but also the adults. And I think that was a real win for you and for the families that are going to enjoy it. Let's talk about just briefly. You like this is definitely not your first written book. I did go on an order.
Yeah.
I mentioned this, Walk a Little Slower, and I know you have others. This is fascinating. I'm not a writer. I love to talk, if you can't tell. I love to talk.
But
Writing
you're
is
good at
very
it. Yeah.
difficult for me. Well, that's sweet. But listen, just reading this, I'm going to make an Instagram post. I hope it's okay. I am going to point people to you. But just reading this back here brought me to tears, the back cover of this book. And before I even opened it, I just read that probably 10 times.
Mm.
I'm not going to read it. I'm going to make a post and I'm going to point to our podcast so that they can know what you said there. But tell me, what got you into just poetry in general and this whole writing thing? You mentioned it at the beginning that that's what you do, but like,
Yeah.
where did that come from for you?
Well, Kathy, I got a lot of feelings. So that's where it all began.
Okay,
Grow
that's
I
fair.
mean, like, in middle school, I loved 2 things in middle school. I loved basketball and I loved punk rock music. I grew to be about
Okay.
5'11", so not super good for the NBA. Also got 2
Yep.
bad knees and a great jump shot, but it doesn't really matter because I got 2 bad
Okay.
knees and I'm short. So basketball really wasn't this thing for my future. I loved punk rock music, bands like Blink-182 and Jimmy Eat World, where they were angry and yet they made jokes and
Yes.
they put into words how I felt. And when you're in middle school, like, you've got, like, everyone's like, your body, you're going through a lot. And if
Yes.
somebody or something can comfort you in a way, you latch onto it. And that was punk rock music for me. So I was like, well, I'll make my own band.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you know this, Kathy, but you have to have some sort of talent to
I'm
be a
getting ready.
musician. I don't have any
I do know
musical
that.
talent. I can't sing. I cannot play music. Rhythm is not a thing. Can't really even spell the word. It's difficult. We don't really know where the H goes or the Y. So, anyways, but I loved the music,
Truth.
so I kept writing. So I just started writing, like, punk rock lyrics, and that eventually turned into poetry, and that eventually turned into being on stage and reading poetry and writing it and sharing it in a way that felt very much like a conversation. It's not like Edgar Allan Poe. It is not dark. I am not yelling
No.
at you. I'm telling you a story. I want to invite you into something. I'm gonna make a joke throughout my poems, and so now I get to travel around the country, and I usually travel with a musician, and we host evenings of poetry and music. So I think it's like we just go back and
Love
forth. He
it.
plays a song, I share a poem, And it is the idea is very kind of very similar to the book. If you can catch a theme with the work that I do, is I want to invite you to remember that hope is real and that we can rest, right? That
Mm,
we can slow down, that we can be still. The things that I'm really bad at, slowing down and being still.
same.
And yeah, and then to go, what I've said like 19 times, everything's gonna be okay. Right now, things are hard and they're heavy, and it's just, it's a lot to be a human being, and yet there is still some good.
Mm.
Do you mind if I read the poem?
No, I don't mind at all. Please.
The poem is titled "Walk a Little Slower."
Okay.
So that's the poem, and that's the what's on the back is the end of the poem. But this is
Oh, see, I
yeah,
didn't see their whole thing. I just literally
I
read the
got you.
ending and was sobbing. Read it.
Well, this is the poem. It goes like this. I think today I'll walk a little slower and breathe a little deeper. I'll leave my phone face down inside and give my eyes a rest to see beauty beyond a screen. I'll grab a light jacket so I can still feel the cold wind, hold her hand until it gets sweaty, and I'll let go, but
Mm.
I'll never let go. I'll walk alone between shadows, cut through the field, cross the street when the cars clear. Today, I want to find myself beneath the limbs of the trees and later on below a few million stars. Maybe we'll see a dog or bump into old friends or both. I'm not counting steps or miles, but I'm just walking because for now, I can. And I don't know what the future holds. If my days left are long or short, or well, you get it. Maybe grief is around the corner or a missed call on my face down phone back inside. Maybe there's good news in my inbox or a miracle waiting in the welcome of the next month. And in the morning, I'll sit a little longer and drink a little deeper. I'll watch the light make its way to the dark morning because the light, it always finds a way. And I'll remind myself life won't always look the way it does. Change is coming and it might even be here. I'll remember the steps forward and the steps back that led me to where I am. And before I begin to move these feet once again, I'll slowly breathe in grace and exhale peace, knowing that every piece of me is here to be. And whatever may become, well, for now, I'll walk a little slower and breathe a little deeper. Because right now I'm alive and
Mm.
everything is okay. It's not perfect, and that's okay. And that's what I'm learning to tell myself these days. Everything is okay. It's not perfect, and that's okay.
That's pretty powerful. That's a gift. That's your rock star gift right there. That was something. Other than Blink 182, what inspires you to do that? Like where do you keep getting that inspiration now?
Well, now I get to be a dad, and now And now I'm seeing the world very different than I've ever thought that I would get to see it. And now when I travel, not only do I leave my family, which is hard, but then I go to these churches and these spaces and these schools and I talk with parents and teenagers and, retired folks. And everyone's just going through it. And
Mm.
we're all addicted to our phones. We're all wondering if everything is going to be okay. We're comparing ourselves to the lives of the people around us. Our heads are busy, our hearts are tired, and it's just like I want to create a space where you aren't looking at your phone, where you aren't wondering what you're going to watch later tonight, where you just get to be. I think we spend so much of our lives doing, doing, doing that we forget to just slow down and be. And I want to
Mm.
create these moments and host these events and ask weird questions like, do you want to hear a poem? Because I believe that nobody wants to be
And
asked that.
everyone
Did you
says
know that?
yes.
Nobody ever says that.
I,
They're like, all right, okay, buddy. But I want
it's
to
a little
invite people
different.
to rest and slow down because
Mm.
we're all just going through it. And we forget that this gift is actually a life and not a chore.
That is truth right there. We do forget that. And I think having lost a child, the beauty, there's not much beauty in that at all, other than you do treasure the mundane a little more. You do treasure it all. And you let a lot of things go that you held on to before. So there's even some beauty in that. But where can they buy all these wonderful books of yours and poems and
Yeah,
things
there's
that you
a
do?
there's a small online retailer called Amazon that has most of them.
It's where I ordered them. Yeah.
It's a startup, I think. But
I think
anyways,
it
yeah,
is. It
most
it
of it's
should be
on.
alright.
Yeah, most of it's on. All of my books they are on Amazon, Barnes and
Okay.
Noble. Yeah, my website is writtentospeak.com, and you can just find. I mean, there's so many things to click on when you go there.
If they wanted to
But then
see you in person, do you have your dates or where you're gonna be?
yep, I'm
Yes.
always booking events and speaking opportunities. So if someone's listening is like,
Yeah.
we want you to come to our church, I would love to be there,
I mean, we
and we
just
could
come
talk
to my
about.
house and hang out with my kids and
Yes,
give them some poems they need.
yes,
Listen, I have enough kids that it's like a small church. So
That's perfect, and I have done that before, and it's fine. But I'm easy to get a hold of, which may or not be a good thing, but it's how my life is set up. So you can find me
I
really
love it.
wherever, and I got a new book coming out in February as well. So a new book of
That's
poems.
exciting. Well, we are
Yeah,
going to finish up. I know you're off to another podcast, but I always do like to ask my guests about their own childhood memories because that's kind of my thing. Like
yeah.
I think childhood memories are powerful, and I learn a lot about my guests just in that one question. So, do you have a favorite childhood memory? And if so, would you be willing to share it?
Yes. I would say it's like more of a collection of memories over time, but it is my brother and I have one older brother, and we grew up in Central Florida,
Okay.
so always sunny. Like it was the picture perfect childhood. People are like,
Is that like
Florida is such a
Tampa? What is like Central
oh no,
Florida?
Orlando. Well, I guess Tampa
Orlando.
too, but
Okay.
like more Orlando,
Okay.
just
Yep.
outside of Orlando. I grew up in a town called Oviedo, and we
Yep.
lived on a street, and a bunch of other neighborhood boys. It was basically like the Sandlot, and from sun up to sundown, we were riding bikes, we were playing cops and robbers, we were playing basketball and football, and swimming in the pool and jumping on the trampoline and having picnics under the oak tree out front. Like it, I
Yes.
look back and I think one of the reasons why I write is I'm still trying to recapture all of that beauty, all of that wonder, all
Yeah.
of like, do you remember when everything was like you didn't know anything other than it was all fine and okay, and tomorrow you're going to go outside and play? I want to recapture that. Yeah, I loved being 5. I was so good at being 5 years old.
Yes. I kind of
If you
crushed
get
it
to
too, if I'm being
if you
honest.
get to pick an age in heaven, I am going with 5, maybe 7, but definitely 5. Like it was so fun. Yeah,
That's good. What I love about that question is, and I've asked that question thousands of times over the years to people, and never has anyone said anything grand. Never one said, well,
yeah.
my parents took me on this big trip here. It's always the everyday moments. Those are the memories that matters most. And those are the ones we treasure
The
the
small things
most.
are the big things. Yeah.
Every single time. Yeah. You are a delight.
This was
I
so
loved
fun.
having you here, and I am so excited about your book. I think
Thank
every
you.
parent needs to buy not just one, but 2 copies because you're going to have one. In fact, I'm going to go order a second right now so that my grandbabies have their very own copy. I keep books here for me to read to them when they come visit at bedtime, but I'm going to send them home with this one because it's so powerful. And this is
Yeah.
one concept I hope they grasp at an early age, that God is available anytime, anywhere, and we can talk to him about anything. Thank you for using your own grief to write about this. Remarkable.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
me.
being
This
here.
was so fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.